Okay, welcome back everyone. We're just making another video to help you out with the work that you've got in front of you in the textbook. We're talking about addition and subtraction algorithms, and I want you to understand when they say algorithm is just a set way of doing things. Now this strategy is I guess efficient. However, it requires you to understand place value and being able to either hold that number in your head or write it down in some way. So I know students have a bit of trouble with this one because they're not good with either carrying or borrowing, and so behind the light board here we'll do a bit of work and try and help you out with those strategies. The final thing I'd like to say before I get started is that if you're still struggling with the addition or subtraction algorithms, that's okay. A bit of practice and maybe it'll click for you. We certainly have other ways of working, and they are just as valid as what I'm about to show you here. So try your best and we'll see how we go. Okay. What I'm about to show you doesn't allow for much flexibility. It really is a set way of doing math, and in this case we're doing some addition, and then we're going to do some subtraction. So there's two words that I'm going to use, and one of those words is carry, and up the top I'm going to leave the place value columns in place because we need to think about that if when we're adding the numbers, and if we need to carry the 1 or carry the 2 into the next column, I'll show you that. And when we're doing subtraction, we might be borrowing from the tens and putting it in the units. So we'll talk through those things because I know some students find this difficult. So let's just start with some addition algorithms, and let's set this up with a question here. Let's do 26 plus 66. Okay, so first thing I want you to note is that I'm going to use a different color here. I want you to note that I took enough care to line these up in the units and the tens. Okay. Even how we set things out is a set way of doing things. So we put a line down here, and then we go about the business of looking just in the units column and adding those numbers here. So we put the plus sign down here, and now we're in the business of thinking about 6 plus 6. That's 12. So we don't write 12. You could, but if we're doing the set way of doing things, we don't write 12. What we do with that 1, instead of putting it here, we put it up here as a little 1 above the 2, and we need to remember to add that up at the end. Alright, so let's see how that goes. I'm just going to clean the board there. And now we're in the tens column, and I've got 2 plus 6 is 8. And then I need to remember about this guy up here. It's a 1. So 8 plus another 1. 8 lots of 10 plus another 1 lot of 10 is the same thing as writing 90. Okay? So the answer there is 92. And away we go. So let's just, while we're here, let's just check if we wrote this out differently using our mental strategies. Perhaps I'm thinking about this as 80 plus 12, and that's equal to 92. So I'm pretty sure I've got the right answer there. And there's a good way of checking. Use the algorithm, use a mental strategy. Technically, we're going to take the sum of these two numbers, and we're going to do it a set way. Now, like I said to you before, you can really help yourself out here if you take enough care to set the digits in a sort of line where it's nice and neat. That's really helpful. So we've got, what do we got here? We've got units. I'm just going to put tens and hundreds up here. And we always start in the units column. We always start here and work our way to the larger units. Okay, so we've got 9 plus 2. That creates a problem because that's 11. So we put the 1 in the units column, and then we're putting a 1 up here because that is the same thing. 11, just remember, I might write that somewhere where it can be seen. 11 is the same thing as 10 plus 1. Okay, so let's focus in on the numbers here in pink. We've got 3 plus 10. And then we've got to remember about this guy up here. So that's 11 as well. So put the 1 again, and then we need to carry into the hundreds. And think about what's happening here. We've got 4 plus 1 is 5. Remember this guy up here again, and that's 611. So just quickly, again, we should be able to check our work using a mental strategy. So I'm doing this. Plus 172. I'm thinking about this as 540 plus 71. And this number here, I'm actually thinking about it as 60 plus 11. So that's going to take us to 611. So we're correct there. Okay, so we've got some subtraction algorithms set up here. The same thing. We took the care to write the digits in their place value in a nice, orderly way. And now our language is going to change. We're going to use the word borrow because in this first example here, I've got a problem straight away. In the units column here, I've got 4 subtract 5. And we might think about that as 4 subtract 5, and that might take us to -1. That doesn't really help us. So what we need to do is look into the tens column, and we put a little line through here to say we've got 70 there, or 7 lots of 10. We're going to borrow 10 and shift it to the units column. So I'm going to put a 4 there. And often what I write there is a 6 to help me remember. Okay, now the trick is to read this as 14 subtract 5. So let's do that. And the answer to that is 9. So let's put the 9 down there. Now it's important to remember that we borrowed 10. So it's not, when we look at the 7, put a line through it because it's not a 7 anymore. It's actually 6. And we need to think about that little number just above the line and think about 6 minus 1, and that gives us 59. Same sort of thing, we've got some bigger numbers here, so we might need to do a bit of borrowing. And I think it's going to get messy. And this is one of the problems with using these algorithms, is that life gets a bit messy. But we try and be neat. I'm looking here, 0 minus 1. That's not going to work. I'm going to borrow from the tens. and put it in the units. So I'm reading that now as 10, take 1 is 9. This guy's not a 4 anymore, it's a 3. So 3 take 2 is 1. And now I've got another problem here because 2 minus 7, well, that's not going to work for me. I need to borrow from the thousands and put it in the hundreds. So I'm going to read that number as 12 take 7, and that is going to give me 5. Now, just be careful here because that was a 3, and if we're in a bit of a rush, we might forget that little number there. But we need to read this as 2 subtract 2, which is nothing. Okay, we could put a leading 0 there. I think we discussed that somewhere else. You can do it or you don't have to do it. It's totally up to you.